Hi, welcome to the overview for VWinds Flutes. This library marks the end of our VWinds orchestral instruments, following on from our double reeds and clarinets libraries. And just like the double reeds and clarinets, the flutes are based on our harmonic alignment technology, which we call HAT, a hybrid of sampling and modeling that allows us to reproduce and control the full dynamics of the instruments in real time. Included in the library are 9 individually recorded instruments: 2 piccolos, 2 flutes, 2 alto flutes, 2 bass flutes, and 1 contrabass flute. VWinds Flutes is our most advanced library to date and represents a huge step forward in our methodology and technology. Before we dive into all the new features and improvements, we first wanted to show you how it sounds when being played live without any editing. Here's our friend Simon playing an excerpt from a quartet by Baza on our 4 flutes. And to show you just how realistic and versatile these instruments are, here are a few quick excerpts where we'll switch back and forth between a real live performance and what we created. These demos were created using only 1 cc for the airflow and 1 cc for the manual vibrato. Our goal with V-Series instruments has always been to make them as easy to use as possible. No need for different articulation patches, no need for key switches, no latency, and a very light footprint on your computer. Simply load the instruments into your DAW and start playing. Or, if you prefer drawing the notes on the piano roll, this couldn't be easier. VWinds will respond to whatever you draw to 127 degrees of modulation and velocity. If you're already familiar with how our instruments work, we've included a section at the end detailing some of the new features which you'll find listed in the video chapters. Each flute takes up around 160 megabytes in storage and uses around 120 megabytes of RAM, and the library of all 9 flutes comes to a total download size of approximately 1.6 gigabytes. Most computers today come with relatively low internal storage, and VWinds will take barely any space from even the most basic setups, while still improving on the realism, playability, and versatility of instruments 100 times their size, all while keeping computer resources to a minimum. Let's take a closer look at the interface. On the main tab, you'll find the 3 primary controls: vibrato, airflow, and reverb. The vibrato has 3 settings: automatic, auto time, in which you can draw the shape of the vibrato in the preferences, and manual. Each of these settings offers their own advantages. Auto and auto time will give you a great sounding vibrato right out the box, whereas manual will offer the most flexibility, while taking slightly longer to program in. Next, the airflow. This is a control for the dynamics and is assigned to CC1 by default. And finally, a dial to control the amount of reverb. The source of the reverb can be selected underneath the dial. All of these controls have a MIDI CC already assigned, but if you'd like to assign your own, simply click on the small dot next to it and then move a CC on your keyboard or controller. We've also added an option for overblow. This can be applied on attacks only, or applied to the entire instrument. With attacks alone, overblow is activated on the notes with high velocity, and on the full setting, the first harmonic is also accessed at the top range of the modulation. This can be very useful in combination with other settings for imitating the sounds of different world instruments. The next tab is for mixing. We captured each instrument with 3 microphone positions, which you can control with the sliders here. And there's also a built-in 3-band EQ. If you'd like to do your own mixing rather than using our virtual space, we recommend using the first microphone position only, with virtual space mics switched off completely. There are 2 reverbs. First, a standard convolution reverb with a wet-dry control, decay, and a few different spaces to choose from. Secondly, there is the virtual space. This is basically a room simulation, allowing you to place the instruments in any position in the room. There are 4 microphone patterns to choose from, each with their own character of sound. The virtual space is based on detailed responses recorded in the real rooms, so each seating position contains the real reverberation, phase, directivity, and EQ created by the room, specific to that seat and to the corresponding microphone position. For the first time, we're able to offer more than one virtual room for these instruments. We're very grateful to the team at Stoller Hall in the UK for allowing us to record there. The award-winning Stoller Hall has received international acclaim for its acoustics and regularly plays host to some of the world's most famous performers. For more information about the hall, we've included a link in the description below. To place an instrument on a specific seat in the virtual space, simply click on it. There are 4 microphone patterns available: ORTF, AB, AB wide, XY, and their recording positions are represented with images in the interface. The different patterns, along with the choice of seating positions, means that you can create a near endless number of combinations for your instruments, whether you're writing for full orchestra and want the woodwinds to sit in their traditional places, or if you're creating wind ensemble pieces and want them closer to the front, or if you want something different entirely. You'll always be able to find new sounds. You can also adjust the stereo width and the room size for less tail. Here are some examples of the virtual space in action, starting with it switched off. Finally, the Preferences tab, where you can take in-depth control of many technical aspects, all of which are explained in more detail on our website. In the Pitch tab, you can control several parameters relating to the pitch of the notes, the accuracy of each attack and how long it takes for the player to readjust, the tuning of each note, as well as settings to do with pitch bend and the relationship between airflow and pitch. Advanced pitch bend is switched off by default to save CPU, but this can be switched on for a more realistic pitch bend. the bottom left is the Legato Transitions tab, where you can choose between real, modeled, or smart transitions, and adjust the responsiveness and timing of attacks and transitions, as well as controlling the amount of air in the attacks. In the Vibrato tab, you can design your own vibrato sound on the auto time map, as well as adjusting volume, pitch, speed, timbre, intensity, and variation. The General tab offers the option to adjust the volume of individual notes. And you can also add a few special effects to the sound: flutter, key clicks and noises, and extra air. Also on this tab is the opportunity to resculpt the sound entirely by adjusting the level of each harmonic with the formant control. Variation of pitch and air can be increased to add more humanization to the sound, and there are three options for round robins: off, smart, which detects when round robins might be needed and applies them, or 3 times alternate, which cycles through repetitions. We recommend keeping round robins switched off for woodwind instruments and adding variation with your own programming, although they can be useful when you're short on time. And finally, in the MIDI tab, here in the bottom corner, you can adjust the dynamic range by redrawing the modulation curve. There are pitch and transpose settings for if you'd like to double an instrument with borrowed notes. There are also settings for ensembles for when you're in a hurry, so you have the option to select your MIDI controller here and move the few key switches that there are to a position of your choice. We've included the option to control release times, and this is designed to be used in combination with the volume of the release samples, so we recommend experimenting with both dials together. As with nearly all other controls on this page, these are assignable to a CC, where they can be very useful depending on the type of music you're programming. We've added a new mode of legato transitions called Smart. This is a mixture of perfectly smooth transitions and transitions with a slight break, based on the interval being played. We've added a few more dials to do with the general sound and the attacks. a velocity-sensitive sharpness of attack dial which controls the speed of the beginnings of the notes. A dial to control the amount of air in each attack, enabling you to create chiff-like effects, essentially sharp bursts of air at the beginning of each note. And a dial to control the amount of extra air in the general sound. Included in the vibrato section is a new control, which allows for variation of timbre, mimicking the natural behavior of the sound even more accurately than before. If this is the first you've heard of our V-Series instruments, head over to our website and check out the other instruments in the series. We have saxophones, trumpets, trombones, oboes, English horns and bassoons, clarinets, and many more on the way. Okay, that's all for this video. You can get VWinds Flutes today from acousticsamples.net. Thanks for watching.